as you know, you're going to get the clearance on the ground, and you're going to program that clearance into here.
Right. So we're actually, so we're going to call out the...
So I'm going to actually give you a course to fly.
Okay. So you'll just be my ATC.
Yeah, I'll be the controller.
Okay. And I'll just talk to you as if I'm talking to them.
And I'm trying to remember. Hold on a second. My ATC hat has to go on for a second.
All right.
Get my chart up here.
1 Hilton Head, runway 21 at Alpha 3, clear for takeoff, make left traffic.
And what was the name of the airport again?
Low Country, Walterboro.
And what was the identifier?
RBW.
RBW.
So you can put that in the box right away as the destination. Then I can show you how to add waypoints in front of the destination.
Low Country.
Okay, so somehow we got it backwards. How did that happen? Oh, I know what happened. You highlighted this one and you put, so what we can do right now, because that's backwards from the way we're doing it, we'll just invert,
enter. Okay.
So we got that. But now the controller's going to say, here is 554 Mike Charlie. You are cleared to the Walterboro Airport via, after departure, direct Turley, that's T-E-R-L-Y, direct. Climb and maintain 2,000, expect 3,510 minutes. Departure frequency is 118.975, and the squawk is 1200.
All right, Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie cleared to Low Country, RBW, Romeo Bravo Whiskey, via Turley, then direct, on departure, climb, maintain 2,000, expect 3,000 after 10, departure frequency 118.975, squawk 1200.
Feedback correct, except expect 3,500
Sorry.
10 minutes.
Correction, 3,500 after 10, 4 Mike Charlie.
Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to get Turley in here.
Okay.
And the way you do that is anytime you push this cursor, you highlight when you want to put something in front of that. And when you start typing Turley, it's not going to replace RBW, it's going to put it in front of RBW.
Okay.
So go ahead and do that. That's going to be T-E-R-L-Y.
Turley.
That's it. And then it says Southeast U.S. intersection, so that means you did it right. And then you got to hit enter. So notice where it put it.
Yep.
So that's your flight plan now.
Okay.
And so now, instead of going from Hilton Head to Walterboro, we're going from Hilton Head to Turley. And then I told you before there are 4 chapters on here, the nav, waypoint, auxiliary, nearest. There's actually a 5th chapter when you put the flight plan button on. So to get rid of that, you just hit it again. And it takes you back to your nav chapter.
Right. Okay. So now we're actually good. Again, that's ground.
That's the weather. Let's say ground is 121.1.
2.22, the altimeter 299.6. You can expect the visual approach landing and departing runway 21. Advise on initial contact, you have Mike. Good morning, Hilton Head Airport, ATIS information, Mike, 1350 weather. Wind calm, visibility 10 miles, scattered clouds 2,300.
So those clouds are 2,300, but they're scattered.
2.22, the altimeter 299.6. You can expect the visual approach landing and departing runway 21. Advise on initial contact, you have Mike. Good morning, Hilton Head Airport, ATIS information, Mike, 1350. Visibility 10 miles.
Just flip this guy. There we go.
I'm going to ease out so you can see me. I don't know if that's good practice or not. It's just what I've heard. Ease out in the uncontrolled taxi area, and that way you can see you.
Well, there's another thing you can do, because there's a lot of airports where you're hidden in a hangar bank someplace where they can't see you.
Right.
So what you can say is just tell them where you are, and here it's Hilton Head Ground 4 Mike Charlie's at the south ramp, signature ready to taxi VFR with Mike.
Right.
And he knows exactly what the south ramp means. Right here.
All right. I'll give him a call. Hilton Head Ground, good morning. Cirrus 554 Mike Charlie, ready to taxi south ramp at signature with information, Mike.
Couple people calling Vision 1, Hilton Head, say again.
A helicopter. See, this is the helicopter's talking on the tower frequency. This is why I have
clear to land and proceed to the ramp.
Yeah.
And who was ready to taxi?
Hilton Head Ground, Cirrus 554 Mike Charlie, ready to taxi signature south ramp with the information, Mike.
Cirrus 554 Mike Charlie, runway 21, taxi via Alpha,
Hold short of Alpha 3 until the helicopter gets on the ground there.
2-1 via Alpha, hold short, Alpha 3, 4 Mike Charlie. And Hilton Head Tower, Cirrus 554 Mike Charlie, ready to go runway 21, hold short. I'd like to get a north departure right downwind, 4 Mike Charlie.
I'm at 554 Mike Charlie, 21 clear for takeoff and right turn out approved. Traffic a helicopter, turning base.
Alright, right turn 21 clear for takeoff, 4 Mike Charlie.
Told you Mike Bravo is as bad as I am.
Alright, we're good, fuel pump. Mixture, flaps, lights. Clear on the approach.
Okay, so.
Got it clear over there, Brian?
Yep.
Okay. Runway clear.
The helicopter isn't even on base yet. I don't know. He's still coming up the coast.
Alrighty, well, let's go.
Station 1, the Cirrus is on the roll. Runway 21, clear to land, proceed to the ramp.
Power set, oil pressure looking good, fuel flow looking good. Airspeed's coming up, 60. And rotate. Flaps up. Yeah, that crane.
That's a significant height on that thing.
Yeah.
The closer you are to an airport, the more obstacles of lesser height have to be marked.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
The crane down there at the south end, do you know anything about it? Is it going to be up all day or what's the story?
Interesting.
Deal with it.
I don't know. We got no amount on it right
They're
now.
supposed to be notified about that.
About, I think, to 3 o'clock, but it's no time out there for it.
Sounds like a guy in the tower watched us take off and then all of a sudden went, boy.
Earlier and didn't see it, but yep, I see it now, thanks.
Welcome, sir.
Oh, maybe he just got notified about it and he was looking to see where it was. Because he just said, I see it now from the tower.
Is that Skull Creek down there where the Hudson's,
Yes.
yeah, that's where we
Yes.
ate the other day.
Hilton
Yeah, that's a nice little area there.
Citation 4 Tango Lima, right base, visual 2-1.
Citation 4 Tango Lima.
My leg's tired already, Brian.
Clear to land.
There's only one cure for that. I hate to tell you, Ben. You're going to have to buy a new Cirrus with a yaw damper.
Oh, man, yeah.
The new planes, the yaw damper goes on at 200 feet above the ground and you don't have to use your leg at all.
That'd make me a lazy pilot, though. Alright.
All right, 4 Mike Charlie, you're cleared direct Turley. Climb and maintain 3,500.
Oh, no, 3,500, clear direct, Turley, 4 Mike Charlie.
The reason why they give you a 2,000-foot altitude restriction before takeoff, so Turley's way over this way, so you're already way off course.
Yeah.
When you say direct Turley, go direct, enter, and now turn toward that needle.
Mike Charlie, what's your on-course heading?
It's going to be 035 degrees for Mike Charlie.
Roger. There's traffic out to the northwest inbound to Citation. I'm not sure if he's established on final yet or not.
Okay, we'll look for him. We're going to be above them.
On up to 3,500.
Yeah.
Citation 4 Tango Lima, report turning inbound on final.
Okay, we're just now slow turn inbound now, 4 Tango Lima.
Roger. Just headed Cirrus depart, headed north-northeast off the right downwind.
Alright, we'll watch for him, 4 Tango Lima.
So since jets fly above 18,000 feet almost always, they're always on IFR flight plans. Because you have to be IFR above 18,000 feet.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of the weather.
Yep.
So, once you have reviewed the approach plate the way we just did, on an ILS, there's 5 memory items. On a GPS, there's only 4. And the items are A, localizer frequency. That's printed right on that chart. We didn't talk about that a minute ago, but it's there. 2, what is the lowest altitude you can go at to start the approach? 3, what's your final approach course inbound? 4, what are your minimums? How low can you go? And 5, how do you fly the missed approach? All missed approaches start the same way. You climb, because you're climbing away from the runway, but
Right.
some climb straight ahead.
Let's review all those again while I got the plate up. So
Okay.
first, localizer frequency.
Yep.
Second was the
Was the initial minimum altitude that you could go to.
2100,
3rd is the final approach course, which is 229.
229.
And then fourth is your minimums where you can go to. That's 300 feet.
300 feet for the ILS.
And then lastly is, how do you fly the missed approach after you start your initial climb? Is it a climb straight ahead? Is it a climbing turn?
Missed approach is climb straight ahead 1500, climbing turn 2000 to STOS.
Right. And then you hold at STOS.
And hold at STOS. Alright, yaw dampener coming off. Ugh. Thanks, I appreciate it. I was trying to get this up to review. Little CRM here.
So what we're going to do next is we're going to sort of do a little buttonology down here.
Okay.
Citation 4 Tango Lima, left turn off, taxi to the ramp at this frequency.
I'd like to
left turn off,
write down later today those 5 things that you must commit once you do a approach review.
The reason why I talk about that is because the last thing you want to be doing when you're flying an approach is to be staring down at the plate. You should be looking at exactly what's going on.
Right.
Okay, so this is all set right now. We'll go just a little bit lower with the fuel flow. We go back to here. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to fly to Turley. That's your programmed course to fly. And then at this point, we'd be talking to a departure controller. Around here would be Buford. So we'll go ahead and put Buford in here just in case you want to listen to this guy. You get the experience of it. But the tower would have told us to contact this guy if we were on a real IFR departure.
Okay. Right.
And then, you don't have to know this, but the controller will automatically pass you on to the next controller, just like what you do with VFR flight following.
Yeah.
The next one after this is going to be Charleston approach, which is 120.7. Okay. The weather down here is 1872, so that's what we're going to put in here. We're going to
make me do everything.
Okay, 1872. And if you don't know how to find these, they're back on your chart again. You can go ahead and make that the active. Maybe a little far to pick it up here, but it won't take long.
Well, let's do it again, but that was
2999 is the altimeter. That's an important one to know.
Yep.
Then the next thing that's important is to know if the weather was IFR, what's the ceiling? Because that can tell you where you can expect to break out.
Right.
Now, when that thing reports a ceiling, that's above ground level.
I was just about to do that.
Not bad. That.
I was just reaching over. Another habit need to pick up.
So out here, if it says the ceiling's 500 feet, that means it's going to be 600 feet on the altimeter because we sit 100 feet above sea level out here.
Right.
And so it normally wouldn't occur this far out, but this is typically what a controller will do when you're flying to an uncontrolled field. He will say, Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, let me know when you have the weather at Walterboro and approach requested. Since there's no tower there, you get to choose what kind of approach you want to fly.
Yeah.
And he's assuming you're going to listen to the weather first, get the wind, and then pick your approach based on the wind.
Yeah. So we'd say approach, 4 Mike Charlie has weather, we'd like ILS 23 Zulu.
Okay, and the controller will come back and say, 4 Mike Charlie, you can expect that. And as soon as the controller says you can expect an approach, you can go ahead and load that approach in your flight plan. So in this case now, you don't even have to go to flight plan, but I'm going to show you something first before we do this. This is what your current flight plan is right now. We started at Hilton Head, we're going to Turley.
Yep.
And now we're going to go to the airport, and then we're going no place else. That's all that's there.
Right.
Okay? So let's go off that. So you can expect the ILS to 23. With Garmin terminology, what it does is it picks your last airport, and that's where it thinks you want to fly an approach to.
Yep.
So what you're going to do is you're going to hit the procedure key, and it's going to say select approach. That's an enter. Then it's going to give you choices of the approaches at Walterboro. That's the one. And then you have to pick, I always pick an initial approach fix. I never load vectors. The reason for that is a ground school discussion.
Okay.
So you load land key, and then it's going to say, do you want to load the approach? The answer is yes. And so that's a legal thing put up there. You can't use GPS guidance for the final approach course. So now look at what your flight plan says. So now you got, instead of those 3 things in there, if you go to the top, now we have an en route flight plan, and we have an approach flight plan. And your approach flight plan should have all of the fixes that are present on that chart. The first fix is Lamke. The second fix is going to be the hold, because we have to fly a procedure turn reversal. They call that a hold. Go ahead and pull the chart up again so we can follow this through, because you should cross-reference this with the plate.
Oh, watch this.
Yeah, you can load that right onto here if you want, and it'll show you the whole thing.
Yep.
So after the hold, we come back to Lamke, although it only shows Lamke once. Then the final approach fix is .me. Then the next fix after that is the runway waypoint. That's where you're at minimum, so that's called the missed approach point.
Yep.
Then if you don't land, you got to go out to STOAS and hold. So the whole flight plan that you're going to fly is in here right now. But it's divided in a screwy manner. Because if I were the guy designing this, I would say, after we get to Turley, we start flying the approach. But instead it goes to the airport, and then it loads the approach after the airport.
Yeah, that is weird.
So we are currently on the en route flight plan, and at some point we're going to have to jump off the en route flight plan and go to some place on the approach.
Right.
And so that's what activating an approach means. When you activate an approach in the Garmin 430, it automatically takes you to that first fix under the approach banner.
Right.
So there is, now that the approach is loaded, if you hit that procedure key again, the first choice is activate approach.
And you hit enter.
And if you hit enter, we're going to go right to Lamke.
Okay.
But right now we're not cleared to Lamke yet. We're just cleared to go to Turley.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do. But we're set up to fly the approach.
I get the logic, because we're in the en route portion. We need to get to the airport before we're ever going to do an approach. Then we'll get a clearance to.
Right. Our clearance is to the airport right now. We don't have any clearance for an approach.
Right.
We just loaded the approach because the controller said we can expect the approach.
Right.
So now, since this is an ILS, I just got finished telling you that the first part of the 5 things we need to know is the localizer frequency.
Yes.
So in loading that approach, what the 430 did is it loaded the frequency, but it put it in the wrong place. It always loads it in the standby instead of the active.
Okay.
The localizer frequency is 110.15.
Yeah.
So the next thing you should do whenever you load an ILS is flip-flop that.
Here's our turn.
And so now we're going toward the airport. This is going to flip from Turley. This is going to now say, it's going to flip to the airport, KRBW, as soon as it finishes the turn. There it is. Now we're going from Turley to the airport. But where we're really going to go to start the approach is out here.
Yep.
So the controller now says, Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, you can proceed direct Lamke, maintain 3,500.
Okay. So we'll go to the flight plan. And
that's the hard way to do it.
Oh wait, so we
That is one way to do it.
So we just go to...
but think about how many button pushes it takes to do that. You can go to flight plan, you can highlight, you can go to here and go direct enter.
Right.
Or you can do what we just did, just go to here and hit 1 enter.
Yeah.
Boom.
Enter.
And you're going right to Lamke now.
So now we're going to...
Now it's going to take you there.
All right.
There we go. See how this will turn pink in a second. There you go.
Okay. So Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie cleared direct Lamke.
And he told you to maintain 3,500. The altitudes are always important.
Okay, cleared direct Lamke, maintain 3,500 till established on the approach. Cleared for the approach.
He didn't clear you for the approach.
Okay.
He just said cleared direct Lamke.
Okay.
So because our final approach course is at a greater than 90-degree angle from what we're coming from right now, we have to reverse course to get on that final. We just can't turn inbound at Lamke.
Right-hand turns. See, I'm going back to what I'm trying to learn. I don't know how to select the entry.
You don't have to select the entry.
Oh.
It'll automatically do it for you. But
I know, but I got to check right.
But to ask what kind of entry it's going to be, there's only 3 kinds of entries to a hold. There's a direct entry,
parallel,
and teardrop.
Yep.
And
so it's got right-hand turns. So using the right-hand rule, and it looks like the outbound. I'm totally confused. I've watched so many videos, I've read, and I still can't get it. And that's where one of the questions I think I usually miss on the test.
So this is the hold. It's flown this way.
Yep, that's right.
And let's see if I can blow it up a little bit. Not yet. We're not close enough. But when I get closer, I'll make it bigger. And so the hold is flown. Standard holds are flown with right-hand turns.
So
for instrument training, one of the most useful tools that you have that I never had when I did my instrument training, you get to see the hold on a map. We had to visualize the hold in our head. So knowing we're coming this way and the hold is flown this way, the easiest way to get onto that hold without making severe turns is to go like this and come around. That's a teardrop
entry. And so if you're doing the thumb rule where you draw a line right there and then you draw a line right there, this is the entry of it, is up here in the teardrop area. Right. That's what I was gonna.
So if you were coming from this direction,
yeah,
it would be a parallel entry.
Yeah, because if you do that from this direction, you're coming in this direction, it would have been in the. You're going that way, it would have been up here. It would have been parallel.
And so if you think about it for a minute, a teardrop, you go like this and you come around.
Yeah.
With a parallel, you go like this and you come around.
Yeah.
A parallel is just a teardrop flowing backwards.
Yeah, it's just coming in, and then you'll find a teardrop come back in and enter it, and then start. Okay.
If we were coming from this direction,
Direct.
we wouldn't be asked to fly the course reversal at all, but it would be a direct. If for some reason, there are reasons sometimes where if there was another IFR piece of traffic in front of you, the controller might say, if you're coming from this route, I need to have you hold as published at Lamke, then you would come in here and enter the hold.
Yeah.
And do a direct entry. Now you can see it a little bit better. So the teardrop is going to take you out on a 30-degree angle and go out. In this case, there are two ways holds are flown. The first way is by timing, and timing is used when you're on a non-GPS approach because it assumes we can't measure any distance at all. And so this will be a 1 minute hold outbound and then reverse course and come inbound.
Yeah.
The second way is by distance, and with GPS, and you're going to find because this STOAS missed approach hold is 4 nautical miles.
Yeah.
And it'll publish that on the chart actually. You'll see that.
Yeah, it is.
It'll say 4 nautical miles. That's the standard one. Very rarely you'll see one that's 5 or 6 miles instead of 4, but 95% of GPS approaches do holds by distance, not timing, because you can measure distance with GPS. This approach assumes we don't have GPS in the airplane. There are alternate ways to identify Lamke without having to use GPS, but because we have GPS, we're going to take advantage of that.
Right.
So remember, the localizer frequency only transmits in one direction straight out. So because we're way down here right now, we're not going to be able to hear the Morse code yet. But in order to hear it, you got to do two things.
Okay.
A, you need to see ID listed in there, and you don't see it right now. To get ID, you have to push this. I would wish Garmin would default to showing ID, but you have to push that button to get ID. And then to actually listen to the frequency, you got to turn on your nav 1.
Okay.
That's on. You're not going to hear it. You're going to hear a lot of static. And it's very faint in the background. But in a few minutes when we get up here, we'll listen again and we'll hear that Morse code, which is right there on your chart.
So this ID button kind of is like turning off the squelch, but then...
Not really, because now you don't hear it.
Yeah.
The reason for that is in the old days, people used to listen to VORs to get weather because many of the VORs broadcasted weather. They didn't want to hear it in the background.
Yeah.
So you're only going to hear the Morse code if the ID is turned on.
I see. Okay.
So it's kind of, you're right, it's kind of like a reverse squelch, but it only squelches out the Morse code, not anything else.
I got you.
And so there are a lot of people that think because it says 2100 on there, that we need to be at 2100 at Lamke. No, we don't. We can be at any altitude the controller assigns to us, but the rule is you can never descend onto a glide path from above. You have to fly into a glide path from below. So we need to fly into this glide path down here. And so the question is, it only shows you the glide path to .me, and it ends at 1800. Where's the glide path out here at Lamke? You'll never find it on the chart.
Yeah.
You have to calculate it. Here's the general rule of thumb. For almost all glide paths in the eastern part of the United States, in non-mountainous area, all glide paths are flown between 3 and 3 1/4 degrees.
Right.
And at 3 and 3 1/4 degrees, every mile outside of .me, that glide path is increasing by 300 feet.
Okay.
And so
we're 6.
So you're 6 miles, 6 times 3 is 1,800 feet. The glide path out here is 3,600 feet. We're at 35, so we're still below the glide path.
So we can fly into it at Lackaby at that point, and then descend and be sure that we're hitting 1,800 at .me.
Right. The controller's now going to say, for Mike Charlie, descend and maintain 3,000.
Down to 3,000 for Mike Charlie.
Approach Cairns 526 on the frequency, currently at 5,000.
And so now we can probably really hear this guy loud enough to identify it. You don't have to memorize Morse code, you just have to know the dots and the dashes match what you're seeing there.
Dot dash. Dot dash. Dot dash.
Okay, it's working. So we don't have to worry about that. That's been tuned and identified.
Okay.
But right now we see nothing on our screen that's related to the ILS localizer, because to be navigating on here, and that's going to give us our glide path too, you have to be in V-lock mode. But we don't want to be in V-lock mode, because in V-lock mode we never fly the procedure turn.
Right.
So what this box is designed to do, it switches automatically.
Really? So you don't
watch
have
what
to
you don't ever have. You don't want to really touch it, because you'll screw yourself up if you do that.
Okay.
Because there's things about this HSI that we make assumptions. Every time we turn, like when we went to Turley and turned, this course automatically set to go to the airport.
Yeah.
When you're on a localizer, you have to manually set the course.
Right. Okay.
And so you don't do that. The box is designed. Let me make sure yours is set up okay to do this. Okay. I'm pretty sure it is. I looked at this the other day. It's in your auxiliary page where we talk about DEI alarms. Everything's on auto. So it's going to auto switch for us, which is what we want. Okay. So Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, you are 3 miles from Lamke. Cross Lamke at 3,000. Cleared ILS 23 Zulu approach, Walterboro.
Lamke at 3,000, clear for ILS 23 Zulu at Walterboro. 4 Mike Charlie. Did I say that right?
Yep. So watch what happens when we get within about a minute or 30 seconds of Lamke. It's going to actually tell you if you made the right choice about the hold entry. Might have already said it and I might have missed it. No, we're not close enough yet. It's going to tell us when we're inside of a mile.
Do we want to pull back on the map?
That's going to be the next thing we're going to discuss. Not yet. We're going to do that when we turn inbound.
Okay.
There, look, it says hold teardrop.
Hold teardrop.
So you guessed right.
It wasn't educated at all.
You have a 30% chance of being right.
Yeah, exactly, man. Those are good odds. Those are good odds.
So watch what happens now. It's going to tell you what it's going to do. So if you were hand flying the airplane, that 017 doesn't mean a heading, it means a track. And so when you look at your track on here, see it just switched to 017. So that's actually a slight right turn to enter the teardrop.
Right.
And now this thing is going to point back toward Lamke, because we're going to turn around and go back to Lamke. And so it's going to say 229 instead of the opposite. So this
we can't even see the airport, but it doesn't even matter. We just need to fly.
Well, this is like what it's really like.
Yeah, exactly. We should just be focused here.
So this is why we don't care about what's going on outside, other than for other traffic. And I'm watching for traffic, and we're good.
Yeah, I keep glancing here.
So it's going to notice there's a timer here. It's going to count up to about a minute. It won't be exactly a minute, because the minute is supposed to be the inbound time to take to get back to Lamke, and this is based on wind. So since we have a little bit of a side wind, it's going to be pretty close to a minute, because the wind's coming almost straight this way.
Right.
And so what it's going to do is it's going to turn in 7 seconds, which is going to be at 56 seconds, which is almost a minute. 2, 1, 0. Now it's going to start a standard rate right turn. And standard rate on your HSI is when you get to about 20 degrees of bank. Right. And you see this little magenta or cyan thing, it should go right to that thing when it's really standard rate. That's a standard rate turn, that's a half standard rate turn.
Okay.
So when you fly the airplane by hand, you're always going to be doing standard rate turns. That's where you want to bank the airplane. The exact bank angle is a function of your airspeed. When we're a little bit slower, the bank angle is a little bit shallower. So now we can start to slow the airplane down to 18 inches to get ready to do everything else.
Beautiful turning. Turn right into a cloud.
Yeah, well, we're only going to, like I said, 5 seconds, and we'll punch out the other side.
Yeah.
All right, so that's where you want to be power-wise. It's lifting the nose up a little bit. This is going to start to slow us down. And this is going to get us in the speed range we need to be in to put our flaps in when the time comes. All right. So now we're going back to Lamke. If the controller now told us we have to hold as published at Lamke, what you would do is you'd hit this button and it would say suspend. So it suspends waypoint sequencing and it would turn us outbound. But we're not going to do that. We're going to go straight in this time.
Straight in. I have seen that specifically on a video. Hitting OBS gives you a suspend.
But it only gives you suspend when you're in a hold.
Right.
If you're not in a hold and you hit OBS, it'll be in OBS mode, which is a completely different way of flying.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay, now we are back to 1.8 miles from Lamke. And this will probably time out to be just about 0 when we get to Lamke. Or I should say 1 minute, not 0. Because when you're doing timed holds, it's the inbound leg. That's supposed to be the 1 minute leg. And if there's wind blowing you from your tail on the outbound leg, you turn in sooner. That's why we hate timed holds, because you can never get it right.
Right.
Distance holds are much more accurate. And of course, there's no airport in front of us because we got this scattered cloud deck. So this is a bona fide real instrument approach right now.
Yeah.
You watch how accurate this thing is. The autopilot is so damn accurate, but I want you to see how accurate these needles are. We're dead on course right now because this thing is not deviating at all.
Right.
And when you're hand flying, the reason why I like this page is because your track inbound is 229. If this track, because you turn left or right, is not 229, before that needle even moves, you're going to go off course. It's just a question of when.
Right.
Okay, so once we got inside, look what just happened. It switched to V-lock, and now you see a glide path.
Okay.
And when that glide path gets down to that first notch, that's when you're going to put your flaps in.
Okay.
So you're going to do that right about, not quite yet, you can wait a little bit longer. And we're slow enough, that's why the 18 inches works. Now you can put in 50% flaps. And you'll see the autopilot will correct for that ballooning up a little bit. And then when this thing gets right to that glide path intercept, this is going to turn green. This is going to go out and the airplane's going to fly the glide path right down to 3. It will not stop at 300 feet. So what we want to do at this point is we want to set our altitude for the missed approach altitude in case we don't land, which is 2,000 feet.
Oh, yeah, the missed approach altitude.
So we're getting ready for the fact that we might not see the runway. Because this is going to ignore the altitude, it's going to fly the glide path once it captures, which it just did. So when it captures, you pull the power back to 12.
Okay.
Oh. So we don't get too fast. We're going to go right back to 12.
I'll get it.
You just need to know the number. You don't need the practice of actually setting it.
I got to do it all. I like to...
Low country traffic, Cirrus 554 Mike Charlie on the ILS 23 approach, 8 mile final for 23 low country. So you're like, okay, I'm a VFR guy, I'm in trouble, I can't see the airport, I got clouds all over me. Oh, wait a minute, I'm an IFR guy, and I'm on the approach, and I'm dead on the approach. This thing is going to fly that thing like it's on rails, and it's going to keep that thing dead center.
Yep.
So these are the two things you have to match when you are doing it by hand.
Right. So let's fly one like this. Could we try flying it by hand? So
Yes.
our feel was
Yes.
like, okay, good.
Yes.
I love this airplane more than any other airplane I've ever flown or studied. But I realize that if I rely on this, I'm going to be a weak pilot.
You definitely have to hand fly practice because someday your autopilot may go belly up on you.
Exactly.
And so what I do is I mix and match I fly so many approaches, it's crazy. I fly about at least 10 a week.
Wow.
But maintaining your proficiency is very, very important. As a matter of fact, I didn't even mention that this morning, but after you get your IFR rating, maintaining your proficiency is one of the hardest things to do because unless you have a lot of IFR weather, the only way you can practice your IFR stuff on your own is to have a safety pilot. So if you don't have somebody to fly with, because they have to act as your eyes and ears while you're staring down at the instruments.
Right.
And so what we're going to look for next is that we're going to cross dot me exactly. We're 0.25 exactly at 1800. It looks like it's right on. It's within 75 feet, so we're spot on.
Yep. And there we go. We have crossed it.
And now it's sequenced to the next waypoint. So we're going now from dot me to the runway. Low country traffic, Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, 4 mile final for 23 low country. And now you can see where it's taking us.
Yep.
Straight smack into the runway.
Yeah. That's
It is
awesome.
You're going to love the precision of this.
Yeah.
Because it's so freaking accurate.
Yeah, once you get, actually, my understanding is once you get proficient, that's the difference between currency and proficiency. Once you get proficient, flying IFR is actually easier.
Yes, it is.
That's what I've learned.
Because everything is pre-programmed for you, and all the math has been done.
Yeah.
You just fly the needle.
Yeah, that's what I want. I actually want my IFR so that when we do trips, even in VFR, I plan it IFR and fly it IFR.
Sure.
That's what I want.
Sure, I do that a lot.
Yeah. Especially if it's not like, I'm not going through thunderstorms are huge.
Well, even then,
Occluded
working
front.
with the controllers, they got an extra set of eyes. They're looking at the weather screen that we talked about this morning. If you're talking to an approach controller, you may want to take an IFR flight when there's thunderstorms around because they'll help you divert around them.
Yeah. So right now, we just passed 1,000, looking for 300.
Yep. That's the fourth of the 5 elements you have to memorize.
Yeah.
The localizer frequency, initial altitude, final approach course. Now it's minimums. Minimums are 300 feet.
Yeah.
So if we don't see the runway at 300 feet, we go around. We see the runway now. So now any time between here and the runway, if we were going to land, you can put in your final flaps.
Okay.
That's an optional thing. There's no perfect place to do it, except when you're way far out, you don't want to put them down too early because you got a lot of drag. It'll make the airplane be too slow, and the autopilot will go into its underspeed protection.
Okay. So then?
So what we're going to do here is we're going to fly, I think what we'll do is fly the missed approach, because you don't need any more landing practice.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you how that works. So we're going to assume we're not going to see the runway.
Okay.
But I want you to see how accurately it brings you in.
500 looking for 3.
So we got 100 feet to go, and the runway is still not in sight. So what you're going to do, the missed approach sequence, you click off the autopilot, give it full power, start an initial climb, and get your flaps up. Okay, there we go, full power. Establish a positive rate of climb. You're already fast enough, so get your flaps up. And now that you've climbed, you can now re-establish the autopilot on in nav mode.
Traffic.
Yes. And now what you have to do is, as you've crossed the runway waypoint, you need to go back to GPS and unsuspend, and you're going to do a vertical speed alt, and up you're going to go.
Okay. I didn't really follow that as well there, Brian, because we were still close.
What's going on here? Hold on a second. Oops, I screwed you up. Let's take the autopilot. Climb to 1500 first.
Okay.
I unsuspended too soon. That's
Okay.
what I did. So that's the highest workload phase of flight, is flying a missed approach. So we're going to go to 1500. I have to reset this for 2000.
Yeah, on that one, I didn't want to take my eyes off what was going on.
There's a very important piece of this Garmin 430 you have to understand. Every time you reach the missed approach point, which is the runway, it'll go back into suspend automatically. And so the question is, when do you unsuspend?
Right.
You unsuspend when you're going directly to the point. Well, here we had to climb to 1500 before we go directly to the point.
Okay. All right, we're coming up on that.
Check fuel. All right, so you're coming up at 1500. So now what we can do is put the autopilot back on and put it in nav mode and vertical speed alt, and it will take us there.
Okay.
There we go. I'm gonna go direct, enter. You can let go and it'll take care of itself.
Traffic Cessna 120 is on the ramp, taxi runway 05, low country.
This is where it's going to take us to STOAS.
STOAS, yep. At 2000.
Yep, because that's what the, if you look at your approach plate,
what the missed approach is.
that's what it says the missed approach is.
Yep.
And then it will fly the entire missed approach hold for you where you're planning to do your next approach, which is we're going to have you hand fly it on the next one.
Right.
And so this is going to be a direct entry to this hold.
Right. We're just going to come around and turn into it.
Yep. And so general rule of thumb, when you're entering a hold, you're only going into a hold for one reason, to waste time. So you power the airplane back, you go right back to 18 inches to save gas. And then the controller will say, for Mike Charlie, I see you're on the missed approach, say intentions, because they have no idea what you want to do if you miss.
Yeah.
And so our intentions are, we're going to plan to fly a second ILS. 2-3. But what we'll do is we'll take one turn in the hold first to show you how it works.
Okay.
You can bring your mixture all the way back too.
Yeah.
So it's going to tell you down here to hold direct in a minute.
Oh, you can come back even further on there.
Yeah, you can. It says hold direct. It's just going to fly the hold for you.
Right.
And watch how it does it. It's going to turn right to 102 because that's the outbound leg. And it's going to pick up this pink line.
Yeah.
So this time you're not going to see a timer there, but you're going to see this starting to count up, because STOAS is the missed approach point. We're flying away from STOAS right now. The inbound course back to STOAS is 282, but we're flying the outbound course away from it, so the reciprocal of 282 is 102, so it's going to turn to a track of 102.
Right.
And it'll take it a couple of seconds to figure out the wind, so it may be off by a few degrees, but this autopilot is fantastic. It does the job extremely well.
Right.
You can hand fly as well as this is. You got the whole thing aced.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be 40 hours before I get that.
So there it goes. It's seeking the 102 mark. It's gonna make a couple of tiny turns. It's figured out the wind now is blowing you slightly that way. You're off course by design because it's the inbound course that we're gonna...
Yeah.
So some people, when they hand fly, they want to chase that.
Yeah, STOAS is down here. We gotta go around and turn and get back on that.
Yeah.
No. Or, yeah.
And I love this little bar up here because this tells us how far off course we are. We're 1.6 miles off course to this side.
Yeah.
And again, it's inside of 1 mile. 1 mile is the full-scale deflection when you're in terminal mode. There's 3 modes to GPS, terminal, en route, and approach. And in route mode, full-scale deflection is 2 miles. So in terminal mode, the needle's twice as sensitive as it is in en route mode.
Right.
And in approach mode, it's 5 times as sensitive. And you'll see this when you start hand flying it. So it's going to go out to about now. Now it's going to give you a signal to turn back in any second now. There it is, right to 282 in 10 seconds.
Okay. A little traffic here.
Charleston executive traffic, Yellow Pony 16 center out, Bravo left downwind, center, Charleston executive.
If I had to guess, that's a helicopter because he's only 600 feet above the ground, unless he's landing on one of the runways out there. Downtown Walterboro has a hospital, and there's a helicopter that flies back and forth to Charleston quite a bit.
Charleston executive traffic, Yellow Pony 16 center out, Bravo, turn left base 2, final runway 9er, Charleston executive.
It'll pick up that needle now and just fly it inbound.
Right. Yeah, back to STOAS.
Okay, so when we get back to STOAS, we're going to have you fly the approach a second time. So one of the questions that's going to come in is, so how do you get it to fly the approach again? Because if we go back to our flight plan, we are now down at the end of the approach.
Right.
There's nothing after here.
Yeah.
That's the end. We started way up here. When we began the approach, we started at Lamke.
Yeah.
So when we want to start the approach again, we go direct to Lamke if the controller allows you to do that. Sometimes the controller will give you headings to fly instead.
Right.
But we'll go direct Lamke when, there, I'll tell you right now. Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, upon reaching STOAS, proceed direct Lamke at 2,000 feet.
Upon reaching, alright, STOAS 2,000 feet, or Lamke 2,000 feet, upon reaching STOAS 4 Mike Charlie. That was a little convoluted. Fly back. I'll get it.
So what you do, as soon as you hit Lamke, I already got it highlighted, direct enter, enter, and it'll take you.
Yeah, I was thinking that as soon as we get there, I'll hit direct enter.
That's right. And then we can speed up a little bit because we're going on the segment from STOAS to Lamke is going to be, I don't know, about 10 miles or something like that.
Right.
So we are now, if we go off here for a second, we're under 2 miles to get back to STOAS.
So the controller could say, 4 Mike Charlie direct Lamke 2,000 feet.
That's basically what he just said. Instead he said, upon reaching STOAS, proceed direct Lamke at 2,000 feet.
Yeah.
Charleston executive traffic, Yellow Pony 169er Alpha Bravo's left base, runway 9er for banner pick. Charleston executive.
So when is basically we're there? When is that? Now?
Well, it's when this goes to 0.
Oh, I see.
So you're half a mile from it right now.
Okay.
So now you can do it now. So you can go ahead. So go back to your flight plan, highlight STOAS. Highlight Lamke.
Lamke.
And direct enter, enter. So how far is it? It's 13 miles. So you can power it up a little bit to get you there a little bit sooner. And as soon as we start heading direct Lamke, we're going to take the autopilot off.
Okay.
So your job is to keep that needle centered all the way there and beyond.
Yep, at 2,000.
Yes, you want to maintain altitude and maintain heading.
Yep. Vertical and horizontal navigation.
That's the trick. That's the way it always is.
Yeah.
All right, so there's Lamke out there. We'll let it get established nice and level, and then if you notice, the track to get to Lamke is 75 degrees. You're flying 82 right now.
Yeah.
or I should say the autopilot's flying 82. Heading and track are never going to match. The difference is the crab for the wind correction.
Right.
But you can rely on this. If you fly this now, that needle is centered. So if you fly this with your track being 75, you're going to keep that needle centered. It's still correcting a little bit because of the turn.
Right.
So the needle's slightly off. That's why it's flying at 72 instead of 75.
Yeah.
But now it's going to turn a little bit because the needle just centered. You can see the nose just yawed a little bit. That's the autopilot doing that. So you can use this as your guide. And what I'd like to do is I push my heading bug, and that's the heading you're going to fly. You're going to fly about 75 degrees. There's very little wind correction today. So let's take this guy off. Now let's see if you can do it.
All right.
Next question you're going to have to answer is what kind of entry is that going to be at lamp key, because you're going to have to do the course reversal.
It will be a parallel.
Right. So be careful you're climbing.
Yep.
You don't want to be climbing.
Yeah.
So you'll get used to where that chevron should be on there. And if you want to put on the flight director to help you, in order to do that, we would have to turn not just that on, but you'd want to turn on your nav and altitude. You want your altitude, I got to get you back to 2,000, then we'll put the altitude button on. Oh, it's set for 2,000 there, so it'll work. Okay. So now the command bars will give you guidance to stay on that course.
I still feel like if I just look at the flight director, I feel like a weak pilot.
You're correct, because you're not doing a full scan when you do that.
Yeah.
Because for every phase of flight, out of the 6 instruments, there's only 3 that you need to worry about. And in the straight and level phase of flight, the 3 are the attitude, the heading, and the altimeter.
Right.
You ignore the airspeed. You couldn't care less what the airspeed is. And you want your vertical speed to be 0, but if your altimeter is set right, you basically ignore that. So your eyes should be darting between. You always look at this one twice as often as the other. So you look here, look here, look here, look here, look here, look here. And after a while, you'll be able to visualize all 3 in your peripheral vision. You'll be able to make micro turns if you're not quite on course. That's where you want to be at 74 degrees is the exact heading you want right now. You can make very tiny 2 to 3 degree turns with your feet alone. If you start banking the ailerons, you'll overshoot every time.
I see. But I need to go back over and capture it just a little bit.
Yeah, you need to just, somehow you got off just a little bit.
If I'm this way, I'll
but a 1 or 2 degree correction, that'll work. As long as this number is to the left of 75, you'll recapture that.
Yeah.
And we've got 7 miles to go to get back to lamp key.
I should just have the foggles on.
Well, as long as you look down here, you don't look above the screen. The foggles, this counts as, I think the foggles sometimes distract you too much because you got to move your head more to look over here.
Yeah.
But you don't need to have the foggles on. We'll count this as a simulated instrument. And we're getting a little bit of turbulence in the air, which makes it a little bit of a challenge too. Because you just fight through that. If the wind tries to throw you off bank, you just keep this thing nice and level. Because you're right smack on it right now. This thing will give you guidance as to which way to turn when it comes time to do your parallel entry. So you got 5 miles to go before we have to do anything different. And that's what you should be doing in your head. You should be thinking about what's my next move.
Yeah.
Right now I'm going straight and level ahead at this particular heading, at this particular altitude. What's my next move? My next move is when I get to lamp key, I'm going to make a what?
Left turn.
Left turn.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A left turn for a parallel entry with a...
Yeah, so the parallel entry is the opposite course outbound. The opposite of 229 is basically 59.
Yeah.
Or 49, I think. I'm always off by 10 degrees. Yeah, it's 49. But it'll tell you what track to fly. This will correct for the wind too, which makes it real easy to fly because you don't have to worry about wind correction angles. You just fly the track that it tells you to fly. Right. So we got 3 miles to go, and Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, you're 3 miles from lamp key. Cross lamp key at 2,000. You're cleared for the ILS 23 approach into runway 23 Walterboro.
Cross lamp key 2,000, cleared for ILS 23 Zulu, Walterboro, 4 Mike Charlie. So basically we'll just go out and then we'll turn inbound.
And it will give you all the directions to do that.
Okay.
You need a slight little turn to the right.
Charleston executive traffic, Yellow Pawnee with the banners as South Folly Beach, transitioning northeastbound along the shoreline, 700 feet, Charleston executive traffic.
Banner 2.
Yeah, that's way over at the beach.
Yeah, it's over the beach.
Charleston Executive Airport uses the same Unicom as we use here, so we hear a lot of JZI traffic here. All right, so now things start to get busy. You're getting to the point where you're almost inside of a mile.
Yep. Let's go
and
down
it
to
says
18.
hold parallel. Yeah, you can go down to 18 now. And now you're going to have to make a little pitch adjustment to adjust for that, because as soon as you reduce power, the nose wants to drop.
Right.
So don't let it. All right, now it says left turn to 52. That's a track of 52 in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Standard rate turn to a track of 52, which is going to be about a 40-degree turn, roughly. All right, you got 10 degrees to go. Start shallowing it out or you'll overshoot. Right smack there. That's it. Beautiful. Now just keep those guys lined up and you'll keep flying straight ahead. And you'll go out for 1 minute. The timer's starting to time you. On a parallel entry, the turn back inbound is a big sweeping turn. It's more than 180 degrees.
Right.
But it will tell you. It'll tell you what the turn is too. But this is pointing now back to your inbound to take you back to Lamke.
Right. What we're doing is making the space for that big sweeping turn at this point.
Yeah. You're pretty much...
do I need to be 54 or 50?
You need to be at 52. So
Oh,
you're 2 degrees off to the left.
Okay.
So just a little rudder movement will bring you over there.
Yeah.
And now it's time to turn in 2 seconds. 210. So start making your left turn to 184. That's the track you're looking for. Standard rate. Standard rate means plant that guy right there. That's it. It's going to be about 18 degrees on the bank. You just hold altitude and just hold it right there all the way around. It's a good standard rate exercise.
Roger. I'm not required.
And what was the heading one more time?
184. Or it's a track of 184. The heading's not going to be terribly different, but it's going to be way over to here.
Yeah.
Because you're going to
'cause
come past this and
capture.
re-intercept it.
Yeah.
You're going to intercept it on a 30-degree angle is what you're going to do. Okay, your track now is 215, so 184 is another 25 degrees. 10 to go. 5 degrees, start leveling it off, and that's about it right there. And now just wait for that needle to come in. And then your final approach course will be intercepted, which is 229.
229.
Listen to we already identified this as working, so we don't need to do that again. All right, the needle's starting to move, so you start turning toward 229. Okay, you got 10 degrees to go, and your needle's lined up. Now you're going to see what your heading is going to track 229. You got to go 3 more degrees to the right. Right smack there. So it looks like 232, 232 or 231 is going to do it.
Nancy Cooper, regional
So you're at 235, so you're going to turn back a few degrees.
Okay. Coming back.
You want to track at 229, we're right there. 232 is what you want. Okay, so now we're 5 miles.
Here comes the glide slope.
Yeah, so it just flipped. So we're going from Lamke now. We just went inside of Lamke. We're going from Lamke to Dotney. You're just going to wait for that. It's still yellow, which means it's not moving yet.
Right.
But it's there.
Yeah.
And if you keep this at 232, this needle will not deviate off course. Low country traffic, Cirrus 554, Mike Charlie on the ILS 23 on a 9-mile final for 23, low country. And the closer we get to the runway, the more sensitive the needle gets on an ILS. So 2 and 3 degrees off course will start to turn that needle on you, as you can see.
I need to turn more towards the right.
So now you need to go about 231 on here to bring that needle back. Not 231 here, 231 here. We already know the wind is blowing you this way, so you have to turn into the wind. So right about there, fly 236 until that needle centers, and then go back to 232.
Okay.
Low country traffic, light sport on the up 123, low country.
Charleston Executive, citation 5-mile final, runway 9ers, Charleston Executive.
In the last approach, we intercepted it at 3,000 feet, so we got the glide slope earlier. Now we're only at 2,000 feet, so the glide slope's going to come in later.
Right.
Going to come in less than a mile from Dotney. Okay, so now your needle's back centered, so turn 2 degrees back to the left and you'll hold it there. It's going to be about 232 is what we decided. Whatever it is that makes this 229, that's what you want.
Yep.
And you don't have to keep looking at this, just see what that heading corresponds to. It's 232. All right, the needle's starting to move. You're just about at the point where the flaps go in. And you're going to need to push a little bit forward on the stick to avoid climbing. And then as soon as the glide slope gets captured, you're going to pull the power to 12. And this is the delicate part of how do you determine what your descent rate's going to be. Descent rate is half your ground speed adding a 0. So right now you got to pull back to 12, and our ground speed is 102, so that's a 500 foot per minute descent is what you want here. And whatever pitch gets you to 500 feet, that's what you're going to aim for, right about there. Low country traffic, Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, 5 mile final for 23 low country.
A little below the glide slope right now.
No, you're above it.
Oh.
The glide slope is there, so wherever you are, you got to go down to it.
Low country traffic, light sport, part of the pattern, low country.
Just keep an eye, because it's going to be very subtle pitch changes to hold that. So now you're going to be looking at this, and this once again, and occasionally look over at this to help you out. But it's better to be right here, just slightly above the glide path, because you'll flunk your exam if you go below the glide path.
Roger that.
Those are very subtle movements now, because you're pretty much right on track. It's a little too shallow, though, on the descent. You need to put that pitch down just a little bit more. Low country traffic, 4 Mike Charlie, 4 mile final for 23 low country. Because the problem with getting too high on the glide path is it'll take you longer to get below the clouds.
Yeah.
And when you get to the runway, you might be too high to land.
5 to the east, inbound, San Diego.
So we're 3.3 miles out.
You're still at 1,200 feet. You can go down to 300. So you got another 900 to go.
Yep.
If you kind of recognize where your chevron should be there, because when you move your pitch up and down, there's a lag here that takes about 3 seconds for it to catch up with you.
Yeah.
Orbital traffic, Cessna 120 is maneuvering 3 miles south of the field, 1,500 low country.
Okay.
Right, so we're at 800, going down to 300. We're a little high on the glide path, but at this stage, I wouldn't try to dive into it because the glide path gets too sensitive at this point. Just accept being a little bit on the high side and you'll be all right. I'm going to have you look up and see where you are at 400.
At 400.
Yeah.
520. 420.
So notice you're off to, go ahead and look up. You're just a little bit off to the left.
Okay.
Go ahead and land. Now now that you have the runway in sight, you put your full flaps in and you're ready to go.
Got it.
That's how you transition from the gauges to the visual. And if you have any doubt about your glide path, you can use the VASI.
Yep.
VASI takes the place of this once you have it in sight. That was pretty good.
What's runway length?
6,000.
We're going to float for a little while.
And so that's another piece of this that I wanted to talk about, which is why I wanted you to land on this one. We tend to make an approach at around 100 to 105 knots, and yet we land at 80. So there's a big speed dissipation that has to take place when you get close to the runway.
That's why when I reset with the flaps and everything, I pulled the power before we were over the threshold.
And that was the right thing to do.
And just nose down to maintain the speed. All right.
So there's always going to be that on an instrument approach, but you'll get used to handling that because it's very rare in real life that you're flying approaches to minimums. But on a check ride, you have to do that.
Orbital traffic, Cessna 120 is entering
So if you notice when we land, the box is in suspense.
Right.
And the reason for that is exactly what happened on our last approach. Since STOAS is way off here to the right, we don't want to go directly from the runway to STOAS. We want to climb to 1,500 feet first. So we have to wait till we get to 1,500 before we unsuspend, and then it takes us directly there.
Right. Okay. So we got a hand climb. Out.
No, you can climb it in heading mode on here.
Yeah.
That works very, very well, actually.
Or you could just hit AP and pitch, roll pitch mode if you feel like you got good climb.
Yep.
And everything else feels under control. What happened to the hangar?
They had a tornado here.
Wow.
If you look over there at the Quonset hut hangar, the whole front is torn off of it too.
Oh well.
This place really, I mean, it was a mess. This happened about 2 months ago.
Okay. Well,
but now since we're here, what I wanted to do is have you do a slip to a landing too. So we'll do one of those.
Okay. Let's do that.
That worked out pretty well.
I think so. I enjoyed that. I did not look at the runway. I could see it in my peripheral vision, but I was not looking out.
Well, the thing is, if you take your eyes off of here, you will get off course within 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So I can tell when people are wearing or not wearing foggles, whether they're looking in the right place or not.
Yeah.
Just by what I see happening.
Yeah. And I liked that, chasing the needle with my feet.
That's one of my little tricks that most people will not teach you.
I like
when
that.
you're making very, very small corrections, which is what you do in an approach, you can't be doing it with ailerons.
No.
By the time you bank, you've already overshot.
Yeah.
Just do it with your
go
feet.
Yeah.
It's good for anything 3 degrees or less.
Yeah. Small adjustment. And also, it gets you already very mentally tuned for the
landing, right?
Yeah. All right. That was good, Brian. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
So that's the first one you've done, huh?
Yes, sir.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You did. You're going to do very well with this. If that's the first time you tried that, if you were on your IFR check ride and flew that approach, you would pass.
Wow.
Except I give you a lot of coaching. The examiner's
that's
not
the
going to
thing.
give you any coaching.
Yeah, that's you were filling me in with a ton of information that was still not. I wasn't able to.
It's hard to register it all because things are happening too fast.
Yeah. All right. Let's do some slips.
And I want to show you how easy. This airplane will be just like the Warrior, except it'll look differently, and you'll get different numbers. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, that was an important video I just made there with you and the audio together.
Oh yeah, I forgot you're filming this.
That's a really important one. I'm going to reference that for quite a long time. So thank you again for that. I do study a lot.
And there's a lot of subtleties to this, but you actually worked your way through a whole bunch of them without me even telling you.
Yeah.
But you're trying to fly an airplane through a 3-dimensional plane that's lateral and vertical, and that's not easy to do that. But if you have the power settings right, it helps a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You notice we didn't touch the power the whole way down until you were ready to land.
Yeah.
Okay, it's clear over here to the right. We can do a 1, 2, 3. Go back to flaps 50. Mixture full rich. And we'll just stay in the pattern, and you did this yesterday, but we're gonna deliberately stay high. So when we get to beam the numbers on downwind, we're not going to pull the power. We're going to stay
way up.
Pattern altitude is 1,100 feet. You don't have to set it there. We'll just go there. Low country traffic, Cirrus 554 Mike Charlie, departing runway 23, close traffic.
All right.
Yeah, low country, Cessna 120's upwind 23. We'll be turning to the south, 1,200 low country.
Okay, good. He's out of our way.
All right. Fuel pump mixture flaps lights.
There's practically no wind out here. I'll tell you, where it gets to be a real challenge is when there's a lot of bumpiness flying the approach. Then it becomes a issue of holding the heading that you want. Because the wind will throw you off.
Downwind 23.
But he said he was departing to the south. Now he says he's turning downwind for 23. There he is.
That's him.
And we're going to catch up to him if he stays in the pattern.
Yellow pony with the banner, we've got the Mooney in sight, and once we get down to South Holly Beach, we're going to transition northeastbound along the shoreline, 700 feet, Charleston executive traffic.
I'll just extend downwind a little bit, or upwind a little bit.
Yeah, that'll work.
The Mooney's just going to go southbound, join the beach, and then go southbound from there on the long Key Island, so we shouldn't be an issue. Executive traffic.
Sandy Cooper Regional 107 is turning a short while at 1 mile final for 02.
Executive traffic, November 203, Bravo Lima, left base 09, executive traffic.
Okay, we're at pattern altitude. Low country traffic, Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, turning crosswind 23 low country.
Normal traffic, Cessna 120 is turning base to final 23 low country.
Executive traffic, 203, Bravo Lima, on final 09, executive
Now all of a
traffic.
sudden you got to look outside again.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and sweep it on around to downwind.
Low country traffic, Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, turning downwind 23 low country.
Executive traffic, white blue Mooney's departing the area, speed southbound at 1,000.
Okay, that guy's way in front of us. That's good. We got plenty of spacing now.
You bet you too. Have a good flight, guys.
Yes. He's turned final, base to final now.
1,200 pattern altitude here.
1,100.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But for the sake of his slip, being a little high is good.
Yeah.
Still give us more altitude to have to lose.
True.
So the whole idea, I think you know the theory, is to descend quicker without getting your speed up.
Right.
Because you can always dive the nose down, but then your airspeed's going to go crazy.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep the airspeed at 80 to 85 on final, but we're going to be too high. And we're going to have no power. And the idea is to get, and of course, before you ever start doing the slip, you want to already have instituted all your drag devices. So we're already going to have full flaps in.
Right.
But you'll still be too high.
You want full flaps in for the slip?
Yeah, because if you didn't have full flaps in, the first thing you do is put in the last notch of flaps, which sometimes negates the need for the slip. It just depends on how high you are.
Right.
But the idea is we're creating drag on purpose, and so why slip without flaps when you can use the flaps for drag to begin with?
Okay.
Okay, so we're past the end of the runway. Don't descend yet. Just keep the power here.
Yeah.
And we're going to wait until we're... is that guy on the ground yet? Yeah, he is. Okay. Okay, you can start turning base now.
Downwind 23.
I was going to let... Okay.
Low country traffic, 4 Mike Charlie, turning base, 23 low country. Okay, so you're going to put your 100% flaps in on base, as you always do. Now you can pull the power back. We'll get the flaps in first, and then you can pull the power back to about 12. You make it 15.
Traffic, November 203, Bravo Lima, turning cross.
15.
09.
Woohoo, we're hot.
Okay, now we're nice and high. This is where I want to be.
Yep, it's good for slip.
Okay, now go ahead and start reducing power. You say to yourself,
3 miles.
low country traffic, 4 Mike Charlie, turn final, 23 low country. So you're saying, oh crap, I'm too high. Pull the power back a little more. And now you're all the way back to idle is where you want to be. And you're obviously too high. So we got full flaps, too high. You're at the right airspeed, so now what do you do? If you want to use left aileron and right rudder, you just crank it right in like this.
Oh, Brian.
Look what you do. You can bring it right down. If you overshoot, you can go the opposite way like this.
Yeah.
You can bring it down like this. And we're a little fast, so I'm just going to pull the nose up a little bit. I'm going to slip it right over to the runway, and I'm going to give it back to you. And now you can go ahead and land it this way.
Right. I got
So
you.
it's more of an aggressive move
It is
than
very
a warrior.
aggressive. All right, you just want to go around?
Yeah, let's go around. You could do one.
Okay.
I'll put the flaps to 50. Go ahead.
Low country traffic, light sport on the 45 left down.
So realistically, in real life, if you were that high,
Low country traffic, RV.
you just do a go-around.
Yeah.
But where this is really useful is, let's suppose you lost the engine and you wanted to arrive at the airport deliberately high because you don't want to come in short. And now you got the runway made, but you're too high, you just slip it right in and land.
That was aggressive. Okay. I don't really ever do them in the turn while the turn's still finishing off. That's super aggressive for me. I always did it when I was still in the Warrior and I kept it way up high.
All right, so we'll take it out a little bit
Let's take it out a little bit and let's calm it down for Ben a little bit.
And it works, you can see it works.
Yeah, I was, as long as the airspeed was up, I knew the wings were still flying, so.
Traffic, November 203.
There's no way. You'd have to be crazy to stall it doing that because the nose would have to be up like this in that maneuver.
Yeah.
The key thing actually, and some people let the airplane get too fast because then you get over the runway and you float forever because you got too much airspeed.
Yeah. You still defeated the purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Executive traffic, November 203, Bravo Lima, turning final 09. Executive traffic.
Low country traffic, Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, turning crosswind to downwind, 23 low country.
Yeah, still in the turn. Let's do one thing at a time. Finish the turn.
Well, if you think about it, half of the slip is having the ailerons banked, right?
Yeah.
So you already had it banked in the turn, so
Yeah.
you just kick in the opposite rudder and you're already in the slip.
Yeah.
There's a guy landing on short final there.
I see him. I'm just gonna come on, fly on out. We're descending a little bit.
Low country traffic, light sport, turning final 23, low country.
That's weird.
Kinda came from nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't behind. Okay, we're good.
Alright, I'm gonna go ahead.
Low country traffic of Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, turning a wide base for 23 low country.
Open Executive 3, Bravo Lima, left crosswind 09, Charles.
Okay, clear to the right. All right, so you don't have your 100% flaps in yet.
Nope. Oh, I'll get them. I can get them now.
Yeah. Low country traffic 4 Mike Charlie, turning final 23 low country.
But I'll keep her up.
Low country traffic, light sport, clear over.
Okay, so, well, we're plenty high.
All right, so you're high at this point.
Yeah.
So the first thing you do, you say, okay, I got all my flaps in.
Oh, flaps in.
And now the next thing you do when you're high is you reduce power.
Power out.
And you reduce power all the way and you're like, crap, I'm still too high. Now what do I do?
Yeah.
Well, now you can just start slipping. You can do it if there's a big crosswind, you turn your ailerons into the wind.
Right.
If there's no crosswind, we're probably going to have to go back and forth, because if you do too much of a left slip, we're going to wind up over on the left side.
Right. So we're got 88. 90.
So this time you're slipping enough that you're going to be just fine. And when you know you're in a good shape, you come out of the slip and just land. It's really quite simple. Yeah, this is going to work out very well. There you go. Now you're lined up and you just put it down.
Okay.
You don't even, this is like a power off landing, is basically what it is.
I like practice the go-arounds.
Yeah, that's good to practice a go-around too. There's one more thing I want to practice with you. If you make one more landing, you can make any kind of landing you want on this next one.
Okay.
There's one thing I just remembered, there's one thing in the syllabus that I didn't do.
Can I try? I love the slips to this side because I get the better view.
Well, but if you had a big right crosswind,
then I'd want to
you'd be blown way over there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's obviously easier to slip to the left.
Well, if I had a left crosswind.
Now, if you had a left crosswind, you want to slip that way because you want to counteract the wind.
Yeah, right. So with a right crosswind, it's good to slip into the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with a left crosswind, slipping that way would be bad.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Sorry,
now today there's practically no, actually there is a right crosswind up here, but down low to the ground there's practically none.
Yeah.
So the left crosswind worked.
Traffic, 203 Bravo Lima, final 09, okay, executive traffic.
Localizer traffic, Cirrus for Mike Charlie, crosswind for 23, low country.
Charleston executive traffic, yellow pony with the banners at North Folly Beach, transitioning northeastbound over top of Morris Island and then into the harbor. 700 feet, Charleston executive traffic.
And Localizer traffic, Cirrus for Mike Charlie, turn downwind 23, low country.
Charleston executive 203 Bravo Lima, going
I mean, the thing that's sort of interesting about a slip is that it's kind of hard to screw it up, because if you just relax the controls, the airplane wants to right itself.
Yeah, she just goes straight where she should. Yeah. As long as you don't get too slow and you're down, you know.
It's really difficult to get too slow.
If you bring the nose up.
That's the only way you can get too slow, is to bring the nose way up.
Yeah.
And and you're naturally not going to want to do that, because you're looking at the run and you go, oh, I'm too high. And you think if you raise the nose, you're never going to get low. Right. So the natural instinct is to not pull the nose up.
Right. One thing we could practice is a power out. 180. We did that a couple times. It didn't really.
Tell you what, let's make this one. We'll do that on the next one. We'll make this one a short field landing.
Okay. You want to slip to a short field?
If you need to slip, you can. But,
okay.
But the idea is you just put it down in the first 500 feet of the runway.
Okay. I can do that.
Okay.
Executive traffic, 3 Bravo Lima, left cross on 09, executive traffic.
We're doing short field. I like to give myself a little bit more of a final. But I'll keep it high because I'll slip to a short field. Wow, that's going to be a challenge.
Well, that makes it very difficult, because as we already worked through yesterday, having stuff lined up just right on final is what makes for a good short field.
Yeah.
If you have to slip it in, then you're sort of not stable in what you're doing, and the likelihood that you're going to land long is a lot higher when you do it that way.
Right.
But if you want to try it, you can. I'm going to introduce even another variable right now.
Oh, thanks, Brian. All right, door popped open. Let's get her on the ground. Nothing changes. Nothing to be alarmed about.
Boy, it's some nice air conditioning.
Actually, yeah, it's kind of nice.
Localizer traffic, Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie, turn to final 23 Localizer.
It sure does give a little shudder in the control surfaces, so I won't slip. I'm just going to go with a short field here.
Okay. Yeah, I think this slip adds too much of a challenge anyway.
Executive traffic, 3 Bravo Lima, left base, 09, executive traffic.
Okay.
A little long.
Yeah, we got, on that particular landing, all of a sudden you got a little bit of a tailwind. Look at the windsock.
Yeah.
Even shows it there too. So that makes it hard to do a short field. If that's going to continue to do that, maybe we should just take off and runway 5.
I'll just go to the end.
Yeah, we can just go to the end.
Yeah. Save the brakes. Man, I had my aiming point 500. That was one of the little lights. I don't know, whatever kind of lights.
Approach lights. Those are odals.
Yeah.
It looks like a little rabbit going in when
yeah.
they're on.
I had it right in the windshield, trying to make it not move in the windshield, and then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, it's disappearing. I'm still going, and I looked at the speed. I still had speed, and I was like, ah.
Okay, open door done.
Not bad.
They want us to do that, and I think it's everybody's already done it because of all the problems with the doors.
Right.
Low country traffic, Cirrus 554 Mike Charlie, departing runway 5, close traffic, low country.
I did like the extra go-around practice there. Bird left. Bird above. Getting away, okay.
Alright, now they're out of our way. Look at traffic for Mike Charlie, turning crosswind 5, low country. Alright, so we'll do the power off one on this one.
Okay. I'll kind of overshoot the crosswind.
Low country for Mike Charlie, turning downwind 5, low country.
Open executive traffic, 3 Bravo Lima, left base 09, touch and go.
Alright, I'm going to touch the flaps. I'll let you pull power whenever.
Okay, nobody coming from either direction that I can see.
Charleston executive, Diamond 203 Bravo Lima is on final 09, touch and go.
Low country traffic for Mike Charlie's on base for 5, low country. Well, I'll be darned. Now we got a tailwind on this runway, which is actually going to help you. But you really, you're good to be at 90 or above with no flaps. Once you're slower than 90, you want to get some degree of flaps in. And that way you have a little bit more stability to land. Now we definitely have a crosswind from the left, so this is going to help you. So this is good. You took advantage of the runway to not go for the end, because you did not set yourself up to come in short. You see, that's worked just, that was perfect.
Country Cessna 120 is upwind 05, Walsboro.
That was good.
Alright, good. It is hard to land this thing without having my hand where your hand is.
Well, if you don't have any power, your hand can't do anything.
I know,
over
it's
here.
part of my hold, you know what I mean? It's a captain's chair. Alright, what do you think the wind's doing now? I can't see the sock.
It's coming from the side.
Okay.
And so it meanders a little bit. Sometimes it's a crosswind for this, for a headwind for this one, sometimes a headwind for the other one. All right, so is there anything else you want to practice at this point?
You know, I think I'm good. I felt the risky things with you beside me, and now I can practice those with confidence. I should feel pretty good. What can you think of? Anything I looked weak on?
No, at this point, I think you can do exactly what you just said. Now that you know you've practiced a lot of stuff with me, you can see how aggressive you could be with a slip if you want to be, but that's not a maneuver you're going to do very often. And so slips and steep turns are things that you don't do normally in natural flight. What I'm going to have you focus a little bit more on is getting into this instrument stuff, because that's your next challenge anyway. And so that approach you flew is really good. If we pick up a few more clouds, we might even be able to take a real instrument flight if you want to later on this afternoon. So what we can do now is we can go ahead and head back to Hilton Head, and I'm going to have my meeting in another hour and so, and I'm going to have lunch first, and then we can see what the weather looks like. So here's a couple of things you can do now. You got this big approach that's been in here the whole time. If you go back to the beginning of the approach, which is right here, and highlight the approach banner, and hit clear? Because do you want to remove the whole thing? Yes.
Okay.
Boom, now it's gone. And if we don't have to go back to Turley on the way back, you can take out individual waypoints like that, and then we can just reverse the flight plan by inverting it.
Okay.
And then on our way back.
There we go.
It really is that simple. So you're going to use, with IFR flying, you're going to use the flight plan page a lot because, as you saw, there's the en route but you also want some navigation stuff up here. So this is where the second Garmin 430 comes in. I oftentimes will put the flight plan on the bottom, but then you'd have to load it here on the bottom, and you're going to have to load it in both places since these don't cross-fill. That's one of the disadvantages of cross-fill. But here's one of the things that I do when I'm getting ready to fly the approach. I will have the flight plan down here, and I will have this page up here, and then you get information on everything you need from directional control while you're flying the approach. While you're on the approach, you don't have to worry about traffic because the controller only lets one airplane fly the approach at a time.
If you want to go ahead and take off,
so you can go off the traffic page down here. That's just one way to use the two together.
Yeah, I understand that.
Of course, you have the option of 4 frequencies. You already take advantage of that. But the other thing that'll happen that's easy to forget is when you've been flying ILSs, when you get on the ground, even if you shut the airplane completely off, when you restart the airplane, there's this quirky thing about the Garmin that it leaves you in V-lock. And we want it to be in GPS 99% of the time. So if you don't remember to flip that back, when you start up, anything you expect to load in GPS mode is not going to display over there because that's following the localizer needle right now until you flip that back.
Right. And I did see that moving a lot as we were flying the pattern.
And that's why.
Just swinging. Okay, well let's get out of here on this runway then if there's no real wind.
Yeah, we can take off on this one.
Okay. I'll let you make the call. We are past the hold short markers.
Oh yeah, we are. Okay. Low country traffic, Cirrus 4 Mike Charlie departing runway 23 southbound. Yeah, there's more clouds filling in. This would make for a nice IFR flight later.
Yeah.
I don't know how long my meeting's going to last. Sometimes it's 45 minutes, sometimes it's an hour and a half, but it's rarely ever more than an hour and a half.
Okay.
So I should be ready by 3 again.
Okay. As long as I can Uber it back and forth. Transportation's been the biggest.
Hey, I don't know what was going on yesterday. How did you get over this morning?
Signature got me.
They did, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never really tried to look into this, whether Uber has any kind of a centralized system that pulls the drivers together to see who's available in a particular location. I think they're all winging it on their own.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, I don't really know how that works. It's a big digital mystery. Whew.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely got some algorithms in it, that's for sure.
Because there's some places you go, the Uber drivers are crawling all over you. There's like 6 of them ready to pick you up, and then yesterday you couldn't get anybody to come.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I do know, I think these Uber drivers kind of decide on their own when they want to work and when they don't.
Yeah, they do.
So if it just so happens that 3 people decide to take the day off yesterday, then there's nobody left to help you out.
How about 3,500?
And 3,500 is going to put us in that stuff, so we'll just fly up to get to a reasonable distance below the clouds and stop there, whatever that is.
I guess 2,500.
Yeah, 25 sounds about right. And if we can't get above 2,500, we may have to deviate to the left a little bit to avoid going over Buford's airspace.
Okay.
We'll see how that works. We're not close to that yet.
Alright, let me, I've already switched tanks on the ground.
Report inside, Sarah November Charlie.
November Charlie, cleared visual for my 1-5, best forward speed as long as practical, tower 126.0, have a good day.
Sarah November Charlie, we'll keep it as fast as we can, tower. Good day.
Oscar 1550, observation. Wind 350 at 5, visibility 10, 2,300 scattered. Temperature
Vector 29er, dew point 22, altimeter 29er 8. Visual approaches in use, landing and departing, runway 3. Advise on initial contact, you have information, Oscar. Information, Oscar, 1550, observation. Wind 350 at 5, visibility 1.
All right.
Hilton Head Tower, Cirrus 554, Mike Charlie, 11 miles north with Oscar inbound.
Cirrus 554, Mike Charlie, Hilton Head, enter the left downwind for runway 3 and report midfield.
Left downwind for 3, midfield for Mike Charlie. Okay.
Go back into heading mode.
And since I didn't set up this guy, well, actually I did. So you decide when you start descending.
Oh, almost any time. We're just at 2,400 feet.
Because we need to get down to 1,000. So we need to lose 1,500 feet. And I've hoped, if nothing else, I've convinced you that the power settings work.
Oh, yeah. I told my wife that. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've learned. Power setting is,
So there'll be a few situations that'll come up every now and then where the power setting will be off these numbers, but very rare. And if you stay in a nice stable situation and always do this the same way every time, it works.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been clearly demonstrated those two key power settings work like a champ. The tide's going out.
Yeah. Yeah, we had high tide this morning at around...
I see the current coming off of a marker buoy.
It's really interesting to fly over this area and see the magnificent difference between high and low tide. All of a sudden, it's like there's twice as much land when it's low tide.
Right.
And then all goes away when it's high tide.
Yeah. I love it down here. I'd love to live down here. We don't have any business down here, so just vacation for us. But I absolutely love it.
You know what? That almost makes it better. When you come here, you're coming here to take a break. You get a little bit away from the business, so you enjoy it more. If you lived here and were still working your business, the business would be attached to living here, and it would be a little bit more of a chore.
You're right. That's a good point.
But you're not that far away with this airplane. You can bop back and forth here as often as you want.
Yeah.
Because it only takes you an hour and a half or less to get here, depending on the wind.
Yep. That's the part of the pack, part of the reason.
That's how I started coming here, because where I was living, there is no freaking way I would drive way down here on a regular basis, because it was at least 10 hours. In the airplane, it was 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
We would come down here for a weekend before we moved here.
Yep.
And it was so comfortable to do that, and it was such a pleasure. We'd come down here in the winter. Oh my God, I would leave 20-degree weather up in DC and come down here and it'd be 65 or 70, depending if you got it just right.
Yeah. That's the plan. So Angela's mother's got some real estate she's wanting to divest, and I think we're trying to convince her to get a beach property that's for the family kind of thing.
Yeah, this is a great place for that.
That's what we're working on. All right, we're right
Not
there.
quite
Almost.
midfield yet. That's where he wants us to call him.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's looking out the window, he'll probably see us. There's a guy either landing or taking off on 3. It looks like he's landing. He's slowing down. Jet.
Yep.
Hilton Head Tower, Cirrus 4, Mike Charlie, midfield, left downwind for 3.
Cirrus 4, Mike Charlie, Hilton Head Tower, runway 3, clear to land.
Clear to land for Mike Charlie. Okay, good.
Remember 300 Mike Golf, right turn off, and then taxi to the ramp to frequency.
Richard here at Alpha 5, we'll stay with you. Thank you, 0 Mike Golf.
We had a couple of weeks ago, we had people from Icon come up here.
Oh, yeah?
Icon makes that A5 amphibious plane.
Yeah.
I took a ride in that thing. I'm like, wow, you add another dimension to your flying here. You land over there in Skull Creek a few times down there. What a blast that was.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
They look like fun.
It combines your boating interest and your flying interest all in one.
Yeah, I've thought about
The problem is the airplane can only hold 460 pounds. So it's basically a one-person. Well, you can take one passenger, but if you have big people in there, but it only burns 4 gallons of gas an hour. It's an LSA.
Yeah.
But it's a cool little toy, I call it, to fly.
They've got a rough reputation.
Well, that's only because of the people flying them.
Yep.
That's the problem, is that baseball pitcher from the Philadelphia Phillies, he had 30 different drugs in his system.
Yeah.
I could sit right here and tell you now I've flown the airplane for about an hour and 20 minutes. It's a very, very well-built, stable airplane to fly. It reminds me a lot of the Cirrus, except it's like a mini version of it.
Yeah.
It's got a parachute in it. It's only got 2 seats, but it really handles nicely on the water because it has a nice little flat surface to it.
Yeah.
It's not on floats the way a traditional amphib is. But it costs too much. As a new one, it's over $300,000. LSAs are supposed to be cheap. That's why they came up with the concept.
Right.
That one isn't cheap for what you get. Looks like one guy has come in since we left, but there's still plenty of parking spaces on the south ramp.
Okay.
So there's not much wind now. This is about as easy a landing as you'll ever get at this airport. Don't get used to this.
All right. 1,000-foot markers for you.
Brickyard 5742, Hilton Head ground, cleared to Atlanta Hartsfield Airport as filed. Maintain 2000. Expect
Oh, there is a
flight level
brickyard there. I thought the ramp was
220
empty.
minutes after departure. Departure on 125.3, squawk 6232.
I do so appreciate the tricks you give me to have real confidence
Mike Charlie, taxi to the ramp this frequency.
Well,
in landing.
yeah, I'll tell you something.
That was right. I felt spot on that.